Hey, hello everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes? Wonderful. Very warm welcome to each and every one of you for the fourth in our series of Echoes of the Spirit. And within the next few weeks, I shall be issuing another set of lectures to talk about, to discuss, and to just really move us perhaps into a time of sharing our own thoughts, our own ideas. And the topic for today is the trance states. So in our last lecture, we spoke about healing, trance healing, and how everything that we do, everything that we create is an altered state of consciousness. And so when we speak about the trance states, there are in fact thousands, because each one is a different level of attunement, be it to the spirit, be it to the creative force. And so if we start perhaps at the foundation of everything, and that of course would be our connection to the power itself. However you choose to perceive it, it is the energy of all life, and you cannot be where that does not exist. And so whenever we move into any altered state of consciousness, or we undertake any mediumistic unfoldment, it is through the mind that everything is created. It is through the mind that it moves us into a higher state of consciousness, but it is actually the union that we have within the power of all life. It is the divine essence, the creative force. However you choose to perceive it to be, whether it is of the earth, the sea, the sky, everything that we perceive and is created of this world, you and I are a great part of it. And so when we speak of moving into and experiencing these different mediumistic states, it first and foremost starts with you and I, and how we move our thoughts into that higher state of consciousness. You see, the physical mind is dominated by the physical world, and that when we are within the physical mind, the subtle realms of the psyche and of the spirit are muted. And so it's very much to do with how we are inspired, how we create within ourselves to move us into that different state of awareness. We start perhaps by looking at meditation. Now, meditation is a fundamental practice of sensitivity, leading us into the mediumistic states. In meditation, we learn to hold a fixed point of concentration. It is a non-mental active state of being. We are the observer of the process. And when we move into a state of meditation, depending upon how it is created, for instance, if it is structural, such as a walk down a country lane, it touches and energizes our own spirit senses, the seeing, the feeling, the hearing, the knowing, the tasting, the smelling. All the different senses come alive within meditation, and they are heightened. And what it teaches us is to hold a level of concentration. And it is an absolute fact that after 12 minutes, the mind begins to wander. After 20, it's gone. So in all mediumistic states, you're learning how to hold that fixed point of experience. So from meditation, we could perhaps look at contemplation. Now, contemplation is an active psychic element of mind where you're seeking to find the hidden meaning within something, to explore, to expand upon your own knowledge. So that is more of an active state. And then we move perhaps to sitting in the power, which is a technique that has been given to us by the spirit world. And when you look at the different phases of sitting in the power, the most important is the relationship that we build within the creative force itself. For the purpose of sitting in the power is the spiritualization of the soul and the realization of who we are, our journey and connection to the power of all life. Mediumship is a byproduct, you see. And so what is important is to remember that the soul is the living essence of all life. And that when we are sitting within the power, when we are moving into that wonderful becoming, it is acknowledging our own unique individual awareness of the power itself. And of course, when we join, when we become one, it is devotional, it is prayerful, it is reaching from that which is within us to the highest of the universe and creating that wonderful awareness within you and I. And what is happening is the soul is being reminded of its divine connection to the power of all life, you see. And it's so important that you have times of just sitting and being, letting go of expectation, letting go of desire, and simply be within that wonderful presence of all life, you see. For we are then reminded, we are nurtured, we are healed, and of course the soul itself is strengthened and reminded of its own divine connection to the power of all life. When we focus upon the spirit world and the creative force, what is important to remember here is that this is who you are. This is not something that you're trying to be. It is actually something that we are learning to recognize as a part of our natural journey of life. And that actually there is nothing that separates us from the spirit world. And that when we begin to focus and to create these different exercises, if you will, in development, personal development, it is created through an intention, you see. The whole of your energy and your auric field resonates to the power of intention. It is the power of the will that brings it into being, not the spirit world. It is you. And therefore, you are the doorway to your own sensitivity. We bring it into being through the power of the will. For the power of the will is stronger than the power of the mind, you see. And so when we begin to embrace that simple fact that we are naturally a part of the spirit world, that we are a part of the creative force, we then begin to realize that the initial preparation is an internal process, you see. Through the power of the will, you bring it into being. And of course, that is through the power of love. For it is love that has created you and I and brings us into this awareness of compassion. For the three main qualities of creation itself is love, compassion, and understanding. When we move into the energy of compassion, we actually move beyond our own physical senses. We move into that higher state of consciousness where we become one with the universal mind, which is ultimately compassion itself. One of the greatest difficulties that we often have is our own conscious mind. Can I, should I, am I worthy? Am I good enough? And the answer is yes, of course you are, and yes, of course you can, because we are imbued by the sacred power of life itself. And your divine connection to it, to the power of all life, is who you are. It is not something that you're trying to be. It is actually something that you need to recognize, just as the power of the medium is who you are. But of course, when we move into a higher state of consciousness, the first thing we touch is the physical conscious mind. And that is where doubt exists. That is where trust and confidence exist, because they are feelings, they are experiences of the physical world, not of the spirit. For the spirit is absolute within its knowledge, you see, and its ability to embrace and to become. So the first question that I would ask of each one of you is, how do you perceive your connection to the power of all life? How do you build that moment within yourself when you enter into any of the spiritual mediumistic practices, you see? Because that is also leading you to the success that you are seeking. And perhaps more and more, that is not only the starting point, but it is everything, you see, because the presence and the power of the spirit is limitless, but so are you, you see. And one of the greatest obstacles within mediumship itself is embracing the absolute fact that you are the medium, that you carry within you this sacred ability, and that it is who you are, you see. And as soon as you begin to acknowledge that, you start to create a belief, a trust, and ultimately it moves into a faith, you see. And when we look at faith itself, we've got the three pillars. So I can tell you this power exists and that it is there within you. You can tell yourself that it exists and that you are the medium. But until you actually believe it, you will only touch the surface, you see. So every time you work, every time you sit, this is who I am. This is my divine right, and I embrace it. And that there is nothing that separates my spirit from the spirit world, and that the infinite power of all life moves and has its very being within my soul, within my heart, and within every essence of who I am. And really, it is that inner core, that inner presence of your own being, that is really where everything starts and everything moves into this great acceptance of who you are, you see. And I would take that perhaps a little bit further and to say that our presence within our mediumistic ability has come forward unto this life, for it is a facet of the soul that has already started to evolve and to learn. And I will guarantee you that in a lot of your practices of mediumship, you do something, and then all of a sudden you begin to realize, well, I know this. You know, it feels familiar to me, and that's because it is, you see. And that we have been before, we exist, and we will be again. For the soul is eternal until ultimately it moves into that ascension into the light itself, to be a part of that continuation of love which is universal. So there was a time before you and I came unto this world, and that we existed within the spirit, and that as we existed within the spirit there were many conversations with many people, just as I believe that through that union before birth, people come into our lives, be it for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and point the way. And I'm sure each one of us can identify with those moments that have brought us either back into the orbit of that which was meant to be, or somebody has come into our lives to show us the way, just as it happened to me when I was only 17, you see. And the beautiful thing about it is, it doesn't matter what time that comes. It comes when the time is right, you see. And so through that union pre-birth, there were many within the spirit world who choose to continue their journey and ministry to the physical world through their mediums, through the sensitives, through the healers, through those who care for others, you see. And it is a role that is earned, really, through the evolving of the spirit itself. You see, it's not normally a role given to friends and family. Although when I do many readings and I'm doing a spiritual assessment, I often see family with the guiding force of the spirit, which is very interesting to see, because they do take an interest in everything that we do. And so when we look at this incredible connection that we have, we begin to see, if we but stand back a few moments, that everything that you are and everything that you unfold is already there. It is just your understanding of it and the moving into a greater awareness of it that comes into being, I believe, you see, because it is a facet of the soul that is already there, you see. And the role of the medium is the mediator between heaven and earth. You bring the two worlds together. And so our role within sensitivity will always be one where you need to work on the balance of all life. I hope that makes sense, because we do. And that any act of mediumship or inspiration, communication, meditation is an altered state of consciousness. It is a trance state. So it is actually moving away from the physical state of mind, you see, and everything starts with a state of mind. So if we look at the altered states of consciousness, then of course we start with the beta states, which is the energy of the here and the now, you see. And so that moment of mind is where we exist within the physical world. If you go into panic or stress, nothing will work at all. So it's important to be focused, to be within the awareness of the energy itself, and to really feel a part of that process, and also to believe it, of course. So it's the conscious thinking mind, really. And within the conscious thinking mind, exterior stimuli dominate thoughts and actions. So actually our focus is removed from our inner self, and those psychic faculties are actually muted. Therefore, the awareness of the subtle realms are suppressed. You see, this is why when you are working mediumistically, when you're sitting in the power or meditating, if you start thinking about your process, analyzing or questioning it, you're not there. It brings you straight back to the beta states. So really moving to the acceptance. And really what we learn is to be the watcher, you see. Because in mediumship itself, we are always with it, but never fully of it. All emotion flows through me and beyond me. So we are able to work in that way of sensitivity, but we are not overwhelmed, you see, by our own emotions. And you will find this, of course, if you touch upon something that resonates within your own emotional experience of life. You can feel it double almost, and then you can be overwhelmed. So we are learning, in a way, detachment from the experience itself. And of course, the physical mind is always seeking dominance. So give the mind something to do, then the mind becomes a tool of development, and it creates a cooperation. So when you're breathing to start to build your awareness of the spirit, or to move into any practice, allow the mind to watch the breath, and then it can't think. It's active. It's occupied, you see. And even if you suffer from the restless mind, there is nothing to say that you cannot meditate with your eyes open. Just find a fixed point of focus. It's very similar to the way we create the mystical experience, finding a fixed point, going beyond it into the free flow experience. So it's about holding that focus, you see. Harry Edwards, extraordinary man and healer, always spoke about the mirror of the mind, and that the mirror of the mind is likened to a lake of absolute stillness that reflects everything that it perceives, but how easy it is ruffled by our own thoughts and the energy of others. So it's also perhaps about learning to embrace that stillness, isn't it? And finding a way that works for you as an individual. Many years ago, people used to gaze at a candle and the flame on the candle, and to hold the image of that, to learn to concentrate, to focus, and also to use it as a way of building creative visualization. That is why artists, for instance, make fabulous clairvoyance, because they're used to internally creating image and seeing the image before it is created, you see. So the awareness of the subtle realms are suppressed. So we move from the beta to the alpha brain waves, which is between 8 and 13 cycles per second. If we go back to the beta, it's between 4 and 30. Okay. So in my alpha states, I am still within my conscious mind, but I'm starting to move more internally. So my focus is starting to become self-reflective. And it is within the alpha states that you've got body-mind integration, which we call attunement. So that also can lead us into aspects of creativity, you see. So already you are in a trance state, You know, it may be a lighter one, but you're still moving into much more of that energy where it's possible to begin to experience on a different level, you see. Okay. So we then start to move into the awareness of subjective feeling and thoughts. And it is actually the starting of the beginning of the psychic and subtle realm information. So it is within the alpha that the psychic abilities come into being, you see. And perhaps we could liken that to the daydream, where we're aware, but we're not fully focused. And I'll guarantee you, each one of us has had what I call the flashes of inspiration or the presence of the spirit. There is an awareness when we're not fully focused in this world, such as before we awake, just before we go to sleep. There is that moment when it's possible for the realms of the spirit to manifest, you see. So then we begin to move into the lower alpha states, which is mental mediumship, inspiration and healing. So that's where you have spiritual healing, you see. And so the doorway between the alpha and the theta states is considered the bridge between the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious mind, and is the doorway to the super conscious mind. And that's where everything happens. When you move into the superconscious mind, the past, the present, and the future exists as one. And it is within that state of being that the extraordinary becomes ordinary. And that when you're working within your mediumship, you become aware of a piece of information and you think, my goodness, where did that come from? And why can it not come all the time? And the answer very simply is because you're in exactly the right moment at the right time. And when we speak of the superconscious mind, we can touch it, we can experience it, but you cannot stay within it for long periods of time. And that's why you often find you dip in and out of that moment, you see. So the alpha theta bridge then moves us into the superconscious mind, but then we begin to descend through the levels of consciousness and we begin to move more into becoming at one with our source, our higher self, which of course is the power of the spirit. So as you move from the alpha to the theta, you touch the superconscious mind, but you move into the superconscious mind through the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is your life's computer, connected and created in two parts. So you have the personal subconscious, which is everything that you are and everything that you experience, and the universal subconscious, which is connected to the world itself. So as we move beyond that point, and this is where, as you begin to move more into the trance states and the blending with the spirit world, that you touch the point of communication, but you don't want to stay there. You want to go beyond it, you see. So if you start to experience, then you'll stay there. And what you want is to touch that point and then to actually move beyond it into a deeper state of relaxation, where it is then possible for us to blend mind to mind with the spirit world. Because what we're looking for within the trance states is the mind, the energy, and the presence of the spirit world to such a degree that they become the overriding factor in everything that we create. They become the guiding force of the process. Now, when we work mediumistically, perhaps within communication, we are really working in the second person, because I'm talking to you about the experience, aren't I? So, for instance, I would say to you, I'm aware that I've got a gentleman here. I know he's a father. He passed in his early 60s with prostate cancer. He wants to speak to his daughter. So I'm actually in the second person. I'm receiving information. I have an awareness, and then I am giving you my interpretation of that awareness. So when we move into the trance state, I'm going from the second to the first. So I'm becoming the experience. Can you see how that works? So as I become the experience, the thoughts, the feelings, and the energy of the spirit become mine. So as you descend through these different levels of consciousness, there is a gradual withdrawing of your physical senses. So the physical mind and the physical brain waves are actually slowing down, but you're moving into a higher state of consciousness, you see. So there is a withdrawing of the physical senses. Biologically, there is a slowing down. So the metabolic rate, the breathing starts to slow down. The brain waves start to slow down. There is a losing of time, a distortion. Time comes, time goes. But through this slowing down, you gradually lose the awareness of the physical self. So it's possible within the trance states that you feel as if you can't move. But of course you can, if you really wanted to. So as we descend into the theta, we move beyond that point of normal communication. Gordon Higginson always used to say that when I go into the trance state, I pick a message up on the way down, and then I pick another one on the way up. And he was extraordinary. Go on to YouTube and see his demonstrations and his trance demonstrations. He was extraordinary. And I had the, excuse me, I had the privilege of studying with him for the last 3 years of his life. So I got to see his trance work on many occasions. And it was extraordinary. So what we're aiming for is a greater state of cooperation. We often speak of the word surrender, but nobody does, not really. What they do is they cooperate within the process, you see. And so we have many different types of the trance state. We have trance healing, trance communication, trance philosophy, which is the speaking, automatic writing, inspired spirit writing. We also have spirit art, and we also have, in all of these different aspects, depending upon the energy created, you could then look at physical mediumship. Now, physical mediumship takes us actually into an even deeper state, into the delta states, which touches the unconscious, which is very rare, I have to say, in this age. So we've got the theta, so you've got the inward, deeper relaxation. And then we then move from the lighter to the deeper trance state. And of course, the greater power of the spirit is enabled. So that's where trance healing exists, as it moves from the theta to the delta states. And within the delta brain waves, it's less than 4 cycles per second. And it is there that you have the unconscious. So you have a slower brainwave, but a higher consciousness. And so our awareness is completely within the universal mind, or the deep dreamless sleep, or the coma state. And that is where you will find the profound states of meditation within the delta states, moving towards the unconscious. And it is in that state that they perform hospital operations through hypnosis. Now, when we look at hypnosis and the deep, profound states of meditation, the whole of the metabolic rate of the medium is virtually at a standstill, you see. And it is in that state that the avatars and the gurus exist. And that is why they have to be very, very careful that somebody has not left and gone into Samadhi, and that the consciousness is actually still present, because in such cultures, within 24 hours, they cremate you. And that's very unfortunate if you're still there. Now, Paramahansa Yogananda, bless him, in 1953, I believe it was, in New York, completed a lecture, then smiled and left this world to heaven. But for 16 days, his body never altered at all, and they were concerned in case he hadn't gone anywhere and that he was still present. But after between 16 and 19 days, the body started to discolor, so they knew that he'd actually moved into that higher state of awareness, you see. So our awareness at that point within the delta state is completely within the universal mind. Profound states of meditation, the deep trance state, and the direct intervention of the spirit, physical mediumship, exists at that point. Now, hypnosis, just to bring that as a side note, have you ever heard of Anton Mesmer, the Austrian mesmerist? Have you heard of Andrew Jackson Davis, for instance? Well, he had this extraordinary ability that in the deep trance state, he could diagnose and prescribe in Latin. And this is a man who was only educated to the age of 12 in America, and he was known as the Poughkeepsie Seer. But what he did do was he entered into a deep trance state through the use of a mesmerist, who placed him into a hypnotic magnetic state of entrancement. And what it is, mesmerism is a way of moving somebody into that state very quickly. Now, mediums at that time, such as Eva C., Andrew Jackson Davis, and there were many more, used to work in the deep trance state for up to 5 hours at a time. It's a very long time to be within that state. So they used to take their mesmerists with them, and they would then place them into the hypnotic magnetic state of entrancement. And I have seen in Lilydale some of the cards of his diagnostic work written in Latin. And that's extraordinary for a boy who was only educated to 12, could do his numbers, could read, write, bit of maths, and that was it. But what is interesting is that later on within his life, he obtained a doctorate in medicine. So there was something there within him, you see, that was extraordinary. So physical mediumship is the type of mediumship that really is quite rare in this age. And certain mediums have an ability to create an energy that can be utilized by the spirit world to create something called physical phenomena. A great exponent of that was, of course, Gordon Higginson, but even more well known was a lady called Estelle Roberts, who some of you may have heard of. So equally on a par. And she was a lady who demonstrated at the Royal Albert Hall on a regular basis between 3,500 and 5,000 people on a regular basis. And she was an absolute physical medium. And the people in the first two rows used to hear the whispers of heaven getting ready to speak in the auric field. Extraordinary. And in one demonstration in Sheffield with another extraordinary medium called Helen Hughes, they demonstrated to over 8,000 people. And in that one demonstration, Helen Hughes gave 48 first names, second names, and addresses. Extraordinary information that she was able to create, you see. So as we move into the trance states, and just one more subnote perhaps on the physical mediumship. When you sit for the spirit, be aware of the atmosphere you build. And over time, you may actually start to feel what they call the psychic breezes, which is you become aware of the cold, and it's usually at the feet and builds up to the knees. Listen to the atmosphere that you build, because you hear cracks within the walls and within the corner of the room, and that is often an indication that there is a physical element building and is present. With physical mediumship, you cannot say how long it will take to actually build to the point of manifestation, because for everybody it is different. And ideally, to have people sit for you so that there is a supply of energy that the spirit world can utilize in order to really start to build your energy and create the opportunity for such mediumship to come into being. So first and foremost, the spirit world love you unconditionally, and that is rare within this world, you see. And I believe they know us. I believe that connection is made pre-birth, and that the desire and the awakening of the soul, when it comes, for some it is early, for some it is later, because do remember that the sole purpose of life is to experience life and to unfold the experiences on a soul level. And some of that may be relating to this life and this world. You know, one of the greatest things you can do is to bring life onto this world and to create an opportunity for another soul to experience. So if you feel your time has been wasted, it never is, and it never was, you see. So this connection to the spirit world is a very natural connection and is created, I believe, pre-birth. And that there are actually many people in the spirit world who are interested in your work as a medium. They do not see us as physical beings, because they do not exist in the physical realm. They exist in the realm of light and mind, the spirit world. But they see us as beings of light. By your light are you known. And Marcus Aurelius had this most wonderful saying, the soul is dyed by the colours of our thoughts. And so that desire on a soul level creates and builds the wonderful colours of the soul. And it is that desire that the spirit sees, you see. And so over a period of time, and this is where you really have to look at the phases of development, creating that time of development and honouring it. you see. Because if we accept the spirit world as a reality, that reality is a higher state of consciousness or etheric vibration, however you choose to perceive it. The physical world is an etheric world. It is a vibratory energy. So is the spirit world. You and I may appear to be physical beings, but we're not. Everything we perceive of this world is a vibratory energy, you see. When you move into that moment of creating the power of communion and moving into a higher state of consciousness where you begin to perceive the other world, where your spirit senses come into being, you see. So how you do that is going to be unique and individual to each one of us. What inspires you, what empowers you, what excites you, for instance. And I have to say, in everything we do and in everything that we create, the power of love is the greatest, for it is the universal power of compassion, you see. Communication between the physical realms and the spirit realms is mind to mind. Everything is through the mind, and everything is interconnected. And so as you move into that moment of awareness, you touch every point of mediumship, you see. And what you have to look at is your destination. What are you going to do? What are you going to create? Energy follows thought, therefore it manifests, you see. So when you have these feelings of strength, when you have these feelings of communion, that's what you create. When you have feelings of doubt, fear, can I, can't I, then it creates more, you see. So try and remain positive, you see. That feeling of love, that energy of joy is the doorway to eternity, you see. And many people have a difficulty sometimes with the word love, because it can also equate to experiences of life. So change it. Use the word joy, you see. Change it to words which resonate with you. It's amazing how many people in this life and world do not resonate to the word God anymore, especially the younger ones. They won't touch it, you see. But as soon as you start talking about the creative force, the power of the earth, the sea, and the sky, they embrace it immediately, you see. So however you may feel about your perception of creation, it's right, you see, because it's yours. I hope that makes sense. And so our awareness of the spirit, that which you are seeking is also seeking you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the awareness through that joy to the spirit world is reciprocal. Those that take an interest in your journey as a medium, and there are many, take an interest because of your dedication, because of your wishes, and above all, because of the desire that is within your soul. And that the power of the medium is who you are. It is not that which you are seeking to create. And I believe that was meant to be. It is a part of the soul journey and the blueprint of life, because there is one. I do believe that. And some people touch it very young and stay with it. Some people touch it, move into life, and then touch it again at perhaps a later time. But have you ever noticed that if your physical life takes over, all of a sudden something comes along that all of a sudden points your way back again and again and again, until eventually you just wake up smell the coffee and say, wow, this is me. I may as well just do it. Because do you know, my dear ones, it will never leave you, for it cannot. But what I also want to perhaps bring to your thoughts during our time together is the importance of self-love, self-nurturing, and self-healing within this journey. Because it is not just about that which you give unto the lives of others. It is that which you accept and embrace within your own. For it is transformative to self. You cannot have one without the other. You know, just as when you move into the soul awareness of eternity, it has to in some way change the way you look at life. It has to. Once you accept the limitless potential of eternity, once you embrace that it doesn't matter where we're from, regardless of color, creed, or belief, we all come from that same point, the great mystery of all life, the eternal source of everything, the true brotherhood of mankind. Imagine for 1 second what a spiritual revolution that would create if everybody stopped and thought about it for 1 minute. You see. And that therefore we begin to realize that we are eternal, you see. But here I just want to say, you cannot be where that love is not. And even if you have no belief in it whatsoever, if you refuse to believe in anything whatsoever, you will still wake up in Elysia. You will still wake up in heaven. You see, and that's why everybody comes back and says, do you know, I wish I'd listened. You know, sometimes it's the greatest message. I'm sorry, I didn't listen, you see. And spirituality is not necessarily dependent upon mediumship. It's a way of life, you see. The soul is the physical manifestation, our place of belonging while we reside within this world. But your heart, oh my goodness, your heart can eternally be connected to the divine every second of every moment. For that is the power of unconditional love. So the startings of really building our awareness of the trance states, meditation, contemplation, sitting in the power, all these different techniques are designed to help you to find and embrace the stillness. You see, to move into that quietness. If you have the restless mind, do it with your eyes open. It's not to say you can't. But also look at how you perceive that power to be within you. What is the guiding force of your soul? How do you build that awareness within yourself? Because that's everything. And you should always do that before you start any practice, is to move into the presence and the energy of your own being, your own soul. To recognize that you are limitless in your potential and that you give yourselves permission to experience and that you do not limit the limitless potential of who you are, you see. So finding those times of quiet and stillness vital to the success. We tend to feel the energy of the spirit as a totality, but it is actually an individuality. And that really what you need to do as you develop the many powers of the spirit is to learn to observe your energy, to learn to listen, and to be aware of those senses of the spirit that bring you knowledge and information. Pay attention to your process, really. And what is interesting is that no two people will ever do it in quite the same way. So really, every time you sit, every time you experience, what did I experience? Write it down. Because then what will happen is that you'll start to embrace the personality of the spirit. You'll start to really be aware of their presence more. Okay? And this is a really positive thing. Because when we learn to recognize something we know, we will always react and relax and cooperate much more easily. The clairsentience, which is the feeling, is the strongest of all of them. Even if you do not think it is, it is. And it is the clairsentience, the feeling, that moves us into a greater energetic awareness. It is your clairsentience that will tell you someone is there. And it is through the clairsentience, which is often touching the emotion, that you blend and become one with it, you see. And so the difference, I think, between mental mediumship and moving more into the trance states, although both are trance states, is that in the trance states, when you are linking to your guides and helpers, you are moving into what we call the passive trance state. So you're really cooperating with the experience and allowing the experience to guide you. Whereas mental mediumship is the active trance state. So there is a greater awareness of the medium taking place. I see it, I feel it, I hear it, I know it. Wham, 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 wham. Whereas the reversal within the deeper trance states, you see. So it moves from my will to thy will, you see. And that whenever you sit for the trance, there is always a minimum of at least 3 people in the spirit world with you at any one time. It is a collective energy of many minds. And it may be that there is a singular voice, but that voice is connected energetically to many people in the spirit world. It is an inspiration of many that touches one, you see. And that's the getting to know you period, you see. So when you sit for the spirit, it's important of your intention to create, building the atmosphere of the spirit. Some people prefer the silence. Some people like to listen to music. Some people like the power of words. 3 phases of transformation, 3 different aspects that move us into a higher state of consciousness. Now, if you're somebody who likes to listen to music, I would suggest you focus upon the energy of the music, not the music. Because the music itself can take you into imagination where you have the most wonderful time, but you don't go anywhere. You just stay in your mind, you know, raindrops and roses, kittens with whiskers, etc. Unicorns, lovely time, but didn't go nowhere. And so the power of the music is the energy you need to focus on, the atmosphere it builds and it creates, you see. And what's interesting with that is that as a medium, you will move and blend with that differently. So those of you that embrace the energy and then feel as if you're moving in and down, how many of that would that be? Just wave at me. Yeah. So you will naturally resonate to the deeper tones. So you will like the mantric music, the deeper sounds. Those of us, well, I do both. Those of us that embrace it and move upwards and outwards, how many do we have? Yeah. You will resonate to the tinkle tinkle music. So you will resonate to the higher notes. So the music I played as you came in, you would sit to very nicely because it takes you into a higher realm, you see. So we naturally resonate to different tones energetically. The importance of building the energy creating the atmosphere is absolutely important. So before you even start building that within yourself, it should always have an element of joy and of love within it that then begins to create. And this is perhaps where the word ritual may come in. And that is the lighting of candles, the playing of music, or incense even, because it starts to build a presence and an atmosphere, you see. Now the spirit world, they know us, they know what we're doing. When I'm teaching at the college and I do the sitting in the power or the meditations, I never let anyone speak when they come in the room, because the spirit is already there building their presence within the atmosphere. Just as if you are attending a circle of development, strictly speaking, no one should speak. No one should speak before you start, because it destroys the energy of the atmosphere that's building, you see. And I will put into the chat box the music that I got, but I don't believe you can get it anywhere anymore because it's a really old one. But I will put it in so that you can have it with my blessing. So that energy and that atmosphere, you see. Now, where you are now, be aware of your energy, because the spirit is building, ready to sit, because we will be sitting for a little while. So actually, you should all be starting to feel subtly that the energy around you and within you is changing and building. Can you feel that? Just pay attention to it for a second, because it's starting to build now. Because in about 10 minutes, I will be moving you into a small sitting in the power. So the spirit is already getting ready, you see. So if you can sit on a regular basis, you will build an energy and an atmosphere that will help you to develop. When we sit as a group, each one of us sits within the combined energy of each other. That's why mediumship, awareness, healing was always created through group sittings. Because when you've got a group of people sitting together, then each one sits in the combined energy of everyone. And then there was always a medium who would lead the group. And then the medium, which of course would have a developed energy, those who sat in the circle would then be immersed within the energy of the medium. So therefore, their own energy would start to transform. And that's why the avatars and the gurus, they never spoke. You sat within the energy of transformation of the auric field. And there was the learning without voice. It was within the power itself, you see. So it's like a form of osmosis where the stronger moves to the weaker, and then the weaker lifts. And what it does is it opens those pathways to a greater degree. And what is wonderful is once they are open, they never go back. And this is why you can create a wonderful group of sitting together, because we live in what we call non-local reality. Time and space is man-made. Therefore, you can have 5 people in 5 different places in the world, and yet energetically and spiritually, you are in the same moment. You see, isn't that extraordinary? I find it difficult being in this moment, to be honest, sometimes. But there we are. So you can do that very nicely and very easily. So what I would do is, when I sit for the spirit, I always prepare the way. And that is, I use frankincense because I've always used it since I was an egg. I used to use Saint Germain of the Orosoma, but they changed the recipe. They said they didn't, but I know they did because it's not the same one that I trained with my Auntie Mallory Stendhal. I tell you, no. And it's a fortune now, I have to say, to what it was. And so therefore, the atmosphere, the preparation, the calmness, the quietness, and then really building your own love and energy, which is what I'm going to do as a sitting in the power for you, is to take you through a process that you can then repeat if it works for you into the blending with the spirit world. The spirit world bring an energy, which is why you should honor it. You know, symbolically, if you're sitting with a group in person, make them stand outside before they come in, and then ritually all their thoughts, everything going on in this world, I place to one side. I give myself permission to experience the way of the spirit is my way. You see? Okay. And so what you're doing is you're honoring the time, you're honoring the presence, you see. And then what will happen is that as you move into the quiet and into the stillness, be aware energetically of how you feel, of your energy field, because you learn to recognize the presence of the spirit. That is what we call the calling card. And that is unique to each energy of the spirit that works with you. And then through that, over repetition, you learn to embrace it, to understand it, you see. Build your energy first, which is the welcome. Expand that welcome into the energy of the room in which you are sitting. And then the spirit has a reservoir of energy in which to work with you. I would do that for 5 minutes first. And I would also do an exercise to bring a stillness and a calmness into my mind before I sat. Because if you have a very active mind and you try to sit, within 3 minutes, it's gone. World War III is happening. So a small exercise to bring you into the calmness, the quietness, the stillness, to embrace the presence of your own spirit, to then build that atmosphere, because it should always have a feeling of joy, of love within it. Well, that creates the miracle. And then you start to feel and sense the spirit world. And the reason we speak of so many different states of entrancement is called cooperation. And that once you have learned how to start to cooperate with the spirit, you can achieve the same thing in a lighter state. Absolutely. And even Gordon Higginson was aware of every word that was being said. So if you are trying and you're thinking, I need to be less aware, I need to be less aware. No, in doing that, you become more aware. Just relax and observe the process as it unfolds and allow it to come into being. Now, if we bring it into just trance speaking, because we did the healing last month, when you move into an awareness of the spirit and you're starting to develop the inspiration, which is the speaking, maybe the philosophy, or even speaking within the healing, for instance, you will find here that the energy starts to build and that you start swallowing. And that is often a precursor to speaking. Now, the trance speaking is an inspiration. It is a flow, you see. But as you prepare for the speaking, you actually physically start to come back, because it has to move to that point where vocalization is possible. So your own mind starts to come back. And this is when you've got to give yourself permission to let go, to experience. That is where this conversation, is it, isn't it, can take over, and then the moment's gone. It's ruined. Never works in the same way. So before you sit, give yourself permission to speak, if that is what is happening. You may find that you sit for a long period of time just in the quiet. When that is happening, everything is happening. It is preparing the way for the speech. Speaking is a flow of energy, just as communication is a flow of energy. Three things stop the flow. The first is the physical mind, and that is we try to control it, interrupt it, analyze it. The second is stress. The third one is the focus. Everything of the spirit starts with the presence, the knowing that the spirit is there. That is your focus. That is your intention. You stay there, nowhere else. And then it will lead you into that flow of energy and of information. Inspiration may be just a single word, or it may be that there are several words that you are consciously aware of. You have to release those words, otherwise nothing else will come. As you release each word, another word comes, and that's where the flow is created. You see, you lose yourself within the flow of information, and that's how it deepens. Very rare that you're not fully aware of what is happening within that time and within that moment. Now, if you're having problems being self-conscious and you're moving more into that time where you want to be speaking and you feel it's there, then a very nice exercise to bring it more into being is to just reflect your need with the spirit world. You should always do that anyway. And then get a spiritual book such as Silver Birch and read a paragraph, and read that paragraph out loud. And then as you're reading, connect to the inspiration of the spirit to continue with the inspiration of the paragraph and record it. And it is possible to move from the physical mind to the inspirational mind to the trance state. And you can tell very nicely that it's moving into the trance state. Listen to the words that are said, not on the same day, but listen to the words that are said, and you'll find even the way the words are created is different. And even the use of words changes. And that's an absolute indication that you're moving from the inspirational to the higher inspirational to the trance state. And as you do that, you become less self-conscious. Can you see how that works? And you get used to speaking. And, you know, in any form of mediumship, if you work publicly, you have to get used to speaking in front of people. And that's a wonderful way to do it, because you actually become less self-conscious, you see. And then it grows, it moves, it changes, and it creates within that way. And then, of course, the different trance states relating to different facets of mediumship should all be developed separately, because the energy of development is actually different. So you've got the normal sitting to start to build your relationship with the spirit. And then if you want to be working with trance healing, then it should be the main focus of your sitting. If you're working on inspirational writing, the higher writing of the spirit, inspired writing, that should then be done on its own. If you're working on automatic writing, then that should be done totally on its own. Spirit art should be really on its own. So the different facets of the trance, the energy of development is actually different. So put it into your focus. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm sitting for. And give it 6 months. Give it 6 months. There's nothing to say that you could not work on your active trance state, which is your mediumship on a Monday, and then the deeper trance state on a Wednesday. Every level of entrancement will deepen every facet of your mediumship. Totally. You see, because it's about that cooperation of the mind with the energy of the spirit, you see. And of course, be open, be receptive, always be evolving within any level of your mediumship. Always reach for more. Never be satisfied, because it is an ever evolving transformative process. Just as we have major influences of the spirit, which I call the pillar of the power, but you also have many people who will choose to work with you, and it may be just for a period of time. So if in your mediumship you feel secure and then all of a sudden you feel very upside down, I'll guarantee it's because there's a change of people working with you. And what you need to do in such moments is to sit, to nurture it, to allow the unfolding to take place. Okay, so I've spoken of quite a lot of things. And do you have any possible questions? Now, if you do, you go to react and you press raise hand, and it takes you up to the top corner where I can see you. Jim, how are you?
I'm all right, Colin. Very, very, very happy to be here.
Good.
I had a couple of questions. One was what was the name of the guy you said in 1953, the 16 days in higher consciousness?
Oh, Paramahansa Yogananda.
How the hell do you spell it? Can you write that in the chat or something? How do you spell that?
Yes, I probably can't. But if I just say Yogananda,
Oh yeah, okay. Cheers. I had another question as well.
yeah, I'm listening, my dear one.
All right. Well, so you said that physical mediumship is much more rarer in this age, and my question is why? Have you got any particular reason why that is?
Well, because of the time it takes to develop it.
Let's see if, but what can you say what you mean by that?
Well, it's nothing to sit for over 10 years before you start to see the stirrings of it.
Okay,
And also, I would say that there are not so many people who would selflessly dedicate their time to develop someone else.
okay.
There is no one I know that does full materialization
So
in this age.
it's just a change of interest, or you don't know why. I'm just trying to
Well,
process that.
I think that the world has changed, and also, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, so much of it now is open to absolute fraud
Okay, yeah, okay.
because it was developed in absolute pitch darkness, and that within such moments, um, it is open to fraud, and I've seen many fraudulent aspects of it, which gives it a bad name, basically, for the genuine people who work with it in good faith, you see. And also, I believe it's no longer acceptable to for people to sit in pitch darkness.
Okay, cool.
It's
Cool.
being developed, I believe, in another way now, in a lighter state.
Okay.
But it is not lost. Um, such people and such dedication could very easily re-emerge once more.
All right. Cool. Thanks a lot, Colin. That's good.
Okay, so yes, Caroline.
Hello, thank you for the lecture. I just have one quick question. At the moment when I do sitting in the power or I do sitting, like going into a trance, I yawn a lot. So what is the reason for yawning?
Do you know I'm not 100% sure? I mean, energetically, the physical body reacts to changes of energy. So it could be that your physical body is reacting to a change of energy, and the way it reacts is you yawn,
Okay, thank you.
possibly. So what I would suggest, because some of the signs of the trance state and the body physically reacts to them can be the massive beating of the heart. And what you need to do is you need to go above it and say to yourself, this is merely a physical reaction to the change of energy. Stop. And it will
Okay,
stop. Because what we tend to do is we tend to get into a habit and then it just happens. And we
okay,
don't
cool.
try and change it. And that could be it, possibly.
Yeah, I will try that. Thank you very
Try
much.
it. Try it. That's good. So the name of the music is by an author called Cynthia Snodgrass. Can you imagine such a thing? And it's called Something East and West. And it is
Something east and west.
Dream Chants. That was it. Dream Chants, East and West. Because what they are is that they are a series of ancient chants, like the Gyatra and many other different ones. And it goes back, some of them, to the Mass of Angels, Kyrie, Invocation, Veni Creator Spiritus, and so some of them go back to the 5th century.
Well, thank you, David.
Dream chants East and
Yeah, Colin.
West.
So,
Okay. Any other Tony, how wonderful to see you.
Hello, Colin. Thank you for this evening. It's not so much a question, but it's an affirmation, in fact, of a lot of what you have spoken about this evening has resonated with me, and I've been sitting in trance, and it's like having a recording playing back and confirming the information that has been brought forward
Wonderful.
in the circuit. So thank you so much. It's been really, really enlightening.
You are really very, very welcome. And so really, just before we sit, I think finally what we should say here is practice, practice, practice. You see, and it is within the experience of practicing that not only can the spirit impress upon us aspects of who they are, how they are, their life, but also can bring wonderful moments that are very personal to the spirit world, and that you are beloved of the power. I could not say that enough. And that there is something within you that is extraordinary. And that is a facet of your soul that is created long before you and I came to this world. And that you have this ability to create something extraordinary. You see. So, are we all good? That's cool. So let us just come together, just maybe for 15 minutes. And first and foremost, just gently and softly become aware of the breath of life. We live in a sea of energy, prana, and each breath, each moment, is the power and the energy of now. And within the breath itself is the creative force in whom we move and have our very being, the power of life itself. And that for just a few moments, focus upon the breath itself and becoming one, breathing in new life, new beginnings, and new opportunities. And that as we breathe out, just gently relaxing, releasing, and just feel any stress or tension leave on the outer breath. Three deep breaths to activate the solar plexus to bring your power into being. And just be aware now of how the whole of your energy field is beginning to change. That there is this feeling, this presence within you. And that within the presence there is a quietness. And together as one, we focus upon the quietness and it becomes stronger. And within the quietness itself is this feeling of love, this energy of joy. Breathe it in. Embrace it. Through the power of breath, this joy is flowing through us, within us, and beyond us. For it is bringing us together. This extraordinary energy of joy, the eternal power of life. And what I'd like you to do for a few moments is just focus on the fact that there is nothing that separates us from the spirit world. That we are part of the spirit and the spirit is part of us. For we are indeed one. And all is well. And as we breathe deeply and strongly, we begin to radiate this feeling of joy, be it from the heart, the hara. We just expand this feeling of joy, becoming one with the breath, one with our own spirit, filling the auric field and expanding with this radiant joy. Filling the whole of your room the whole of this wonderful atmosphere of joy. Lead me and guide me. Surround me with love, that I may be as thou wouldst be, and do as thou wouldst do. Eternal Creator of all life, in whom we move and have our very being, be with us. As we move and embrace through the power of the heart, we call upon the guiding force of the Spirit. Be with us. In all that we are seeking, be with us. And gently and softly, radiating the feeling of joy. There we are. There is the presence of the Spirit with you now. And however you are experiencing it, just focus upon it. Surround it with this feeling of joy. Spirit to spirit, heart to heart, light to light. I am at one with the spirit world. The spirit world is at one with me. And through every breath that we embrace, simply be. Gently and softly, through the breath, relaxing the mind, becoming more and more at one. Feel your light lifting and becoming more a part of the mind of the Spirit, creating a stronger natural connection where you are becoming one. Gently and softly, through the power of breath, relaxing even more, we begin to embrace the presence of the Spirit, becoming stronger, stronger, deeper, stronger. And gently as we embrace their presence, they will bring to you a symbol that represents the union of your heart to the heart of the Spirit. And gently as we embrace the symbol, we begin to move, to become one, to feel, to sense, to expand the symbol into the auric field, to receive its meaning. And very gently and softly, we move into the prayerfulness of gratitude, of honoring the spirit, of embracing our connection to the power of all life. And gently, as we focus upon the breath, I am strong, I am well. Within me dwells the power of infinite life, and all is well. And very, very gently and softly, allowing the peace to stay with you long after this time has gently come to an end. Very gently and softly, becoming aware of the breath and aware of the here and the now. Everyone okay? Very good. Wonderful. Very nice. Okay then, my lovely ones. So, whatever you experienced within the meditation, just let it stay with you. And then even whatever was shown to you, it may be that the full meaning will unfold in the next few days. It may not be that it's instantaneous in the way that you feel it or sense it. Well, we've covered quite some work today, and thank you for coming. And I will be releasing some more. I've just got to do it, and then I'll continue to do them. And you're very, very welcome to come. Do it on different subjects. Okay? And if you would like to know the different things as well, you can always pop onto my website and sign up to the newsletter. And then anything that comes along, I'll just write to you and let you know. Okay? Take all my love with you, and really wonderful to see you all again. See you soon.
Thanks, Colin.
Okay.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Thank you, Colin.
Colin.
You're so welcome. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.